So, again? Yeah, it's working again. You can switch it back off now.
So you know I really enjoy helping you out. But somehow it used to be so much more exciting.
Yeah, well, fixing cars is not just about taking action. Sometimes it's just a matter of patience. Or do you think you're now ready to take on bigger projects?
No, but I've already learned a great deal. What's Tommy actually doing on the car? That looks kind of interesting.
This is a good opportunity for you to show me what an expert you've become. So, on this vehicle you can hear squeaking noises coming from the engine compartment, especially when it's cold. Any ideas?
Fan belt.
Hey, excellent. This time for once you're right. Apart from the fact that no one talks about fan belts anymore, they talk about multi-ribbed belts, and that there might be countless other factors triggering the noises. Why do we need the front-end auxiliary drive anyway? And that's what it's called today.
Well, to accommodate the auxiliary equipment.
And that is?
The alternator.
Alternator, right?
And the water pump.
Coolant pump. Wow, we should use the correct terms at least once. We do have people watching after all.
Yeah, okay. Hey, the fan belt. Isn't that the component that you can even replace with a woman's stocking, if necessary?
You could. You could. Yeah, once upon a time.
So why was it possible then, but isn't anymore?
What? Because at one time it was a belt that connected the crankshaft to the alternator and the water pump.
And it no longer does that?
Sure, but today it's more complicated and complex because it drives so many other components. As a result, the forces that need to be transferred have increased significantly.
And what are these other components?
I'll show you. Here's the fan belt carrying out its original tasks. It connects the crankshaft to the alternator and water pump. And now let's take a look over here by Tommy. Already it looks more complex here. Tommy, can you give us a moment? As an expert, you'll certainly be able to tell me which components are being driven here.
Oh, come on, you do it. You can explain it much better than I can.
Yes, true. So, again, we have the crankshaft, alternator and water pump, and also the air conditioning compressor. We also have a tensioner pulley and 2 deflection pulleys.
Yeah, that definitely looks much more complicated.
Yes, and that isn't the end of the story. The stresses placed on the front-end auxiliary drive are increasing all the time. There are several reasons for this, but I can explain it better in the training room.
Oh, did you set it up nicely for me again?
Of course, that goes without saying.
And the air conditioning compressor and everything, that explains a lot. But why do I need these tensioner pulleys and deflection pulleys?
Wow, you always ask the right questions.
Well, they're in the script.
Of course. Yeah, thanks for raising this point. Tensioner pulleys and deflection pulleys play an important role in the belt drive system. The fan belt used to be tensioned via the alternator, just like my Opel outside. Today, the tensioner pulley takes on that role.
And what about the deflection pulleys?
They guide the belt tightly around all of the auxiliary components, ensuring optimum torque transmission.
I see. And what about these on the workbench?
All tensioner pulleys. Essentially, there are 2 different types of tensioner pulley, mechanical and hydraulic. The mechanical ones are again differentiated into manual and automatic versions. Manual tensioner pulleys are adjusted by rotating the base plate or an eccentric. By doing this, the mechanic sets the belt tension.
Let me guess, with the automatic ones, he doesn't have to do that.
Exactly. In this case, the force of the springs applies the correct belt tension. What's more, working in combination with the internal friction elements, the spring movement is damped. This also makes the belt drive smoother. When everything is assembled, you twist the tensioner pulley against the spring force until the locking pin can be easily removed by hand.
And then that's it?
Yes, exactly.
And what about the hydraulic tensioner pulleys?
They have a hydraulic element mounted to the base plate. The spring is now located inside here, and the dampening process is no longer triggered by friction elements, but by hydraulic fluid.
So an automatic tensioner means that the belt drive is always set to the correct tension.
And the spring damper system reduces vibrations, making the belt drive run smoother.
Okay, so I understand that the belt has to be tensioned. But what are these vibrations that I need to reduce?
As you know, internal combustion engines create rotational irregularities that cause the belt drive to vibrate. And there's something else to consider. What's the current trend in engine development?
Aha, downsizing.
Correct, which means
Well, that engines are getting more compact, both in terms of the number of cylinders and cubic capacity, and yet the performance keeps improving, and comfort, all while decreasing consumption.
exactly. The problem, however, is that these modern engines basically run rougher, so rotational irregularities today have actually increased and must be balanced with more complex mechanisms. And then there's the downspeeding,
Downspeeding?
which means you're able to drive quite comfortably at lower speeds to save on fuel. However, this causes the belt drive system to vibrate even more.
Which the automatic tensioner pulleys compensate for.
Well, now we need other components to help reduce vibration, such as the overrunning alternator pulley.
A what?
That's the belt pulley on the alternator that decouples it from the belt drive and therefore dampens the vibration. And here's the belt drive with and without an overrunning alternator pulley.
Ah, yes, the difference is really clear.
Nevertheless, development in the field of vibration damping continues. For example, this belt pulley decoupler sits directly on the crankshaft where it minimizes the transmission of rotational irregularities in the belt drive.
Okay, I can imagine with all these developments why the classic fan belt became obsolete.
That's true. It's already evolved through several generations. You mentioned that drivers' requirements in terms of comfort levels have increased. What does this mean? Air conditioning, heated seats, navigational systems, etc.
That you have more electrical components.
And need more powerful alternators. Exactly. And the belt drive?
Is subject to higher loads.
Correct. This is a classic V-belt as fitted in my vehicle. With this toothed design, tight radii are possible, but the number of driven components is limited. Today, these flat multi-ribbed belts are predominantly used. These belts allow more ancillaries to be driven with higher torque around even tighter radii. This belt has a double-sided ribbed profile.
So does that mean that both sides can be used to drive the ancillaries?
Exactly, meaning it's possible to contain very complex belt drives in extremely confined mounting spaces. So if you recall how simple it was with my old banger, I'll show you what you can expect today.
Wow, I don't think I could manage that. What are you doing now?
Have a go.
Oh dear. It's like a challenge.
Exactly. And now imagine you had to change additional components, such as the belt tensioner, and in an engine compartment that's really tight.
To be honest, I wouldn't know where to start.
Which is why we've included fitting instructions in our FEAD kit.
FEAD kit? Is that for hungry mechanics?
It's FEAD, F-E-A-D, Front End Auxiliary Drive.
Aha, okay, I got it.
A FEAD kit contains all the relevant components needed to maintain the entire front-end auxiliary drive for a specific type of vehicle. As you've seen today, the belt drive as a whole is subject to ever-increasing loads, and the components installed are becoming more and more complicated. If any damage occurs, a defect to a completely different component may therefore also be the cause.
In other words, you can't simply replace the defective part.
That's right. For example, if the tensioning arm is broken, it may be due to increased vibrations. It may be caused by a worn torsional vibration damper or an overrunning alternator pulley that is no longer working. And if you don't fix the true cause of the damage,
Then you'll soon be in the workshop again with the same problem.
which is why some vehicle manufacturers have started to recommend fixed inspection and replacement intervals for the front-end auxiliary drive.
As we have already seen with the timing belts.
Yeah, exactly. Let's go back to the workshop and see how Tommy's getting on.
Okay, feed kit. I've got an idea. Couldn't we go and get some food?
Ears and eyes open and learn something. And Tommy, how far have you got?
Almost done.
Sure enough, everything's been replaced. Everything that the feed kit for this vehicle contained. Take a look. Tensioner pulley, deflection pulleys, overrunning alternator pulley, water pump, multi-ribbed belt. Have we really been gabbing on for that long?
Well, when you get going, Sorry.
You'd be better off focusing on the things you really understand. Turn the wipers on and be done with it.
Hey, don't underestimate me, okay? I've got a good technical understanding.
Oh, really?
Yeah, take that for instance.
Take what?
The horn,